Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm your host, Zen Garcia.
Yeah, man. How you been this week?
Really good. Just busy with all the stuff that I'm doing, but yeah, just excited for the. I mean, we're getting down probably what, one or two shows left. We'll have to decide if we move into something else or pick up a different book or subject or something. But yeah, we're getting close.
Yeah, well, we're pretty close to wrapping up Enoch. We'll we only did 6 chapters, I think, of Genesis, so
Yeah,
there'll be quite a bit that we can unpack in Genesis if we decide to go that route, and then
yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
wing it after that, I guess, and see what
Right.
happens. Did you hear about a project that Jake Grant has been working on?
What project?
He told me about it a while back, that his intention was to do sort of an audio drama, like an audio drama adaptation of the Book of Enoch, or to read it as an audio drama. He sent me, I don't know if it's a first draft or what, but it's like 4 hours long. It's the whole book.
Wow.
And he put music to it, sound effects. He modulates and changes his voice throughout it to play different characters and stuff like that. And man, I gotta tell you, it's like really cool. It's like it's begging for visuals.
Well, that's awesome. Way to go, Jake.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can. I'm only about halfway through it right now. I'll just play a sample for you. If it works, let me know if you can hear this or not. Hang on a second.
Chapter 63.
I can. Yes.
Okay.
In those days shall the mighty and the kings who possess the earth implore him to grant them a little respite from his angels of punishment, to whom they were delivered, that they might fall down and worship before the Lord of spirits, and confess their sins before him. And they shall bless and glorify the Lord of spirits, and say,
Blessed is the Lord of spirits, and the Lord of kings, and the Lord of the mighty, and the Lord of the rich, and the Lord of glory, and the Lord of wisdom. And splendid in every secret thing is thy power from generation to generation, and thy glory forever and ever. Deep are all thy secrets, and innumerable, and thy righteousness is beyond reckoning. We have now learned that we should glorify and bless the Lord of kings, and him who is king over all kings.
And they shall say,
Would that we had rest to glorify and give thanks and confess our faith before his glory. And now we long for a little rest, but find it not. We follow hard upon and obtain it not. And light has vanished from before us, and darkness is our dwelling place forever and ever. For we have not believed before him, nor glorified the name of the Lord of spirits, nor glorified our Lord. But our hope was in the scepter of our kingdom, and in our glory. And in the day of our suffering and tribulation, he saves us not. And we find no respite for confession, that our Lord is true in all his works, and in his judgments and his justice, and his judgments have no respect of persons. And we pass away from before his face on account of our works, and all our sins are reckoned up in righteousness.
Now they shall say unto themselves,
Our souls are full of unrighteous gain. But it does not prevent us from descending from the midst thereof into the burden of Sheol.
and after that their faces shall be filled with darkness and shame before that Son of Man, and they shall be driven from his presence, and the sword shall abide before his face in their midst. Thus spake the Lord of spirits. This is the ordinance and judgment with respect to the mighty and the kings and the exalted and those who possess the earth, both form the Lord of Spirits.
That was chapter 63. I just finished listening to it.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, the whole thing's like that, man. He does the voice of like the all the angels and everything, and he does the voice for everybody. So, but I mean, he added music and sound effects to it and everything. It just the only thing it's needing right now is visuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's well impressive. That he could have that many voice inflections and play that many parts, and it's a lot to keep up with.
Man, that was definitely a labor of love for sure.
Right.
I mean, it's the finished product's 4 hours and 7 seconds. So,
wow.
Knowing what goes into that type of a production,
Mm-hmm. Right.
that is a whole lot of time and effort and many, many, many hours.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously went into that. Wish we'd have had it before because it'd been a lot better to listen to than us reading it.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been trying to get some things in order with some of my 3D software, trying to get back in the groove on that stuff again. And I was at the gym the other day. I got a new trainer. The regular trainers at the gym haven't been brought back yet. They opened only a few gyms up in the area. So they're not all open, and not all the trainers have been brought back. So the managers, who are typically trainers, are substituting and taking the clients at the moment. Mm-hmm. And so it's another young guy, about the same age probably as my previous trainer, late 20s, I guess. And toward the end of my last workout session, something came up about conspiracies, right? Like, go figure. And he's like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm like really into all kinds of conspiracies." Like, "Oh yeah, really?" He goes, "Oh dude, I'm way deep in the rabbit hole. As a matter of fact, I listened to a podcast called And I Go Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole with David Weiss." He goes, "Yeah, listen to that too." I was like, "Dude, he's like a friend of mine." He's like, "No way." I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." And he totally geeking out. He's like, "Whoa, man, I can't wait for our next session, man." Usually I don't mix, business with my personal life, but yeah, lots of stuff to talk about. I said, for sure. But he told me that some of the gyms, because of this whole COVID thing and lockdowns and everything, have had to file for bankruptcy. And
sure.
There's one relatively new, actually, 24-hour fitness, not far from the post office that I go to every day, that is one of the places that just closed down. And so I was telling him that, I'm looking for a good-sized space. That I've been watching the special features for The Mandalorian, and I think it's called The Volume or something like that. It's a big room, 3 walls, and 3 walls in the ceiling are really high-resolution LED screens. And so they're not doing green screen anymore. They're authoring the environment in 3D software using gaming software. So you also get not just the background itself, but you get movement parallax. So when you shift your position, the background shifts accordingly, with parallax. Wow. And not only that, is because it's so high resolution, it casts the appropriate shadows from the lighting of the scene onto the characters, and so in this case where you have the Mandalorian, who's like a Boba Fett character, has a reflective armor, it actually accurately reflects the environment. So rather than shooting on green screen and having to put the reflections in, all the lighting and everything is right there. So I'm like, man, that just really opens the door up to some very creative filmmaking. Mm-hmm. And I've been praying. I'm like, Father, I need a space like that. I need the people, the resources, the funding, everything to do something like that here in Dallas. Well, as I'm thinking these things, a friend of mine who is actually a pioneer in the motion capture arena, he's one of the founding people in that industry. He texted me the other day. He's like, "Dude, it's been too long. We need to do lunch." I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." So we're having lunch together tomorrow.
Awesome.
So who knows? I have no idea where that's going to go. But have had some really interesting communication with people recently. Also, I don't know if you've seen the documentary Out of Shadows yet.
I was trying to watch it on because I have the streaming on my TV, and I haven't figured out how to log in yet. And so it has only the trailers that I can access right now. But once I figure that out, then I can actually preview and watch that. But I haven't done it yet.
Well, I mean, that video has certainly gone extremely viral.
I want to watch it ever since you told me about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's reaching a lot of people. Anyway, one of the producers of it, I got in contact with. Two of the guys in there are Hollywood stunt people who went on to be like writer, director, producer types. And you know, in the documentary, they said, yeah, we knew going into this that we basically, you know, our careers are over.
Right.
And I'm watching this and I'm listening to them. I'm like, nah, it's not over yet. You just don't know you're going to be working on Seed.
Yeah, right.
So I took a shot in the dark. I went to their Facebook group page and just said basically that. I said, you know, hey, listen, I saw your video, outstanding, very cool. Your careers aren't over. I've got a project that you guys may be interested in. And very quickly, Mike Smith got back to me. And turns out, man, I think I told you this on your broadcast or one of the previous shows there, that he actually listens to our shows, man. So if he's listening, hi, Mike. You know. Yeah.
Hello, Mike.
Yeah, that I told you after I got off the phone with him. He said, make sure you tell Zen I love his stuff. So you know, who knows, man? But he said he's really big on trying to create some avenues for distribution and different things that are holding people back. You know, so I don't know where any of this is going to go, if it goes anywhere. But I'm excited about these meetings and communications that I'm having with people, and you know, we'll see where it goes from there. I'm hopeful, at any rate.
Yeah. The beautiful thing about synchronicities is the possibilities that come later. And, you know, I'm 3 chapters away from finishing this pre-Adamite book. And then after that, I plan on focusing on the script as far as the Enoch film. Yeah. So I'll have a lot of movement there shortly.
Yeah. For those who don't know about that, Zen and I are coordinating behind the scenes to maybe co-write like a motion picture script, you know, of the Book of Enoch. Real excited about that, and I have to possibly, you know, integrate it with Seed. But at any rate, there's a lot of interest in this right now, so trying to jump on it while it's hot for sure.
Right.
And of course, to all of our supporters out there, thank you. We can't do it without you. For those of you who support both Zen and I,
yes,
this is what we do this is what we do for a living. So, and you know, God knows YouTube's not paying us much of anything.
Right.
And you know, a big shout out also to Chris Geo for Truth Frequency Radio and giving us the opportunity to do what we do here.
Absolutely.
As well. So yeah, I always want to make sure that you guys are. You know that you're well appreciated.
Very much so.
Very much appreciate the support that we've had, and also just an update. Our son's doing really well. For those who have supported the surgery and the thing that we had to get done for Jeremiah's back, really appreciate that. He's working now. He's got a job, and you know,
fantastic. Wow, things
are going pretty good there too. So. Definitely hopeful about the future in spite of all the craziness going on in the world. Trying to march forward as best we can. So that's the deal on our side. Anything else going on your side before we jump in?
No. Well, you know, just for everybody, again, the Sacred Word Revealed Conference, planning on having all that go down. September 11th through the 13th. We'll have the new trailer out shortly. And if you are not aware, myself, Rob, my son, then Stephen and Yana Ben Noons, Dr. Stephen Pigeon, Gary Wayne, Dr. Joy Jeffries Pugh, Nathan Reynolds, Laurel Austin will all be speaking there. And so I'm excited and hoping that everything is good and settled by that time, and that we can actually get together and congregate and fellowship and share a meal and laughter and hug, and so hopefully that'll all go down soon.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I've actually been getting some handwritten letters and some emails from people that are getting excited about it and looking to meeting us in person and, you know, all that good stuff. So definitely looking forward to that. I saw something on Facebook that the next Take on the World conference has, well, it hasn't been canceled, but the on-site conference has been canceled. They're shifting over to doing a virtual conference.
Yeah, that's probably wise.
Well, yeah, I mean, they do it, like a campsite. So, it's a much more in-depth type of conference, with all kinds of activities usually.
Right.
So, certainly everybody's bummed out about that because that's usually quite the event every year. But, what can you do? I mean, the venue's not doing anything because of this whole COVID deal. So they are locked down, but we are still planning. That's in August. I forget the date on that, but it's coming up too. That's are you a part of that this year?
I'm not. Well, it's just, I'm kind of banned from Take on the World.
I know that.
Yeah, and so that's why I haven't been part of all that. But I've been banned from a lot of conferences.
You and me both. Man.
Yeah.
There's actually a very short list left where I'm still allowed to speak at, but that's just as well. I mean, really, I'm trying to get much more focused on trying to get seed off the ground, which is really, I mean, that's definitely a full-time job. So
right.
But yeah, this guy Radcliffe that I met in California a few years ago, another writer, he recently submitted a script to me. I had published the first 4 scripts in a book a couple of years ago, and I've got 2 other scripts written that are still going through some tweaking and stuff like that, episode 5 and 6. But the script that he wrote is so good, I'm bumping my episode 5 to be episode 6, and 6 will be 7 because I'm going to put his as episode 5. And I read it to Sheila out loud today, and she really liked it too. So good job, awesome. Radcliffe, if you're out there, if you happen to be listening. Looking forward to brainstorming and getting started on some more scripts. But moving forward, man.
That's great. I'm glad that you're having all these individuals come out and help you, because it really takes that. And when you have people that can actually help write and produce and other things, what a load off, as far as having the burden of everything just being on you. Definitely
looking forward to having a rock solid team that you're meeting regularly and having whiteboard discussions and creative room sessions and all that kind of stuff. Kevin just posted in the chat room August 21st through 23rd is Take on the World. Okay, cool.
Yeah, right on.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, man. I'm ready to jump in.
I'm ready. Yeah, absolutely.
I believe it's chapter 95 for me and 96 for you.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. So here we are, Lawrence translation, chapter 95. Wait and hope, ye righteous, for suddenly shall sinners perish from before you, and you shall exercise dominion over them according to your will. In the day of the sufferings of sinners, your offering shall be elevated and lifted up like eagles. Your nest shall be more exalted than that of the avast. You shall ascend and enter into the cavities of the earth and into the clefts of the rocks forever, like conies from the sight of the ungodly. Who shall groan over you and weep like sirens? You shall not fear those who trouble you, for restoration shall be yours. A splendid light shall shine up around you, and the voice of tranquility shall be heard from heaven. Woe to you, sinners, for your wealth makes you resemble saints, but your hearts reproach you, knowing that you are sinners. This word shall testify against you, for the resemblance of crime. Woe to you who feed upon the glory of the corn and drink the strength of the deepest spring, and in the pride of your power tread down the humble. Woe to you who drink water at pleasure, for suddenly shall you be recompensed, consumed, and withered, because you have forsaken the fountain of life. Woe to you who act iniquitously, fraudulently and blasphemously. There shall be a remembrance against you for evil. Woe to you, ye powerful, who with power strike down righteous, for the day of your destruction shall come, while at that very time many and good days shall be portioned of the righteous, even at the period of your judgment.
All right, 96 from the Charles. Be hopeful, ye righteous, for suddenly shall the sinners perish before you, and ye shall have lordship over them according to your desires. And in the day of the tribulation of the sinners, Your children shall mount and rise as eagles, and higher than the vultures will be your nest. And ye shall ascend and enter the crevices of the earth and the clefts of the rock forever, as conies before the unrighteous. And the sirens shall sigh because of you, and weep. Wherefore, fear not, ye that have suffered, for healing shall be your portion, and a bright light shall enlighten you, and the voice of rest ye shall hear from heaven. Woe unto you, ye sinners, for your riches make you appear like the righteous, but your hearts convict you of being sinners, and this fact shall be a testimony against you for a memorial of your evil deeds. Woe to you who devour the finest of the wheat, and drink wine in large bowls, and tread underfoot the lowly with your might. Woe to you who drink water from every fountain, for suddenly shall ye be consumed and wither away, because ye have forsaken the fountain of life. Woe to you who work unrighteousness and deceit and blasphemy. It shall be a memorial against you for all evil, for evil. Woe to you, ye mighty, who with might oppress the righteous. For the day of your destruction is coming. In those days, many and good days shall come to the righteous in the day of your judgment.
Yay!
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, with all this craziness and everything that's going on in the world, I'm trying to remain cautiously hopeful in some of the things that I'm seeing. I stress cautiously hopeful when I look at things like the Q narrative and all that stuff about the indictments that are supposedly going on, thousands of indictments and things going beyond the scenes. And,
Right.
supposedly a lot of things that are happening right now in the world are to distract from.
What about the Federal Reserve?
And the Federal Reserve, that is interesting.
Interesting, very much so. The video by Michael Tellinger.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was just going to ask if you saw that. That is, it is interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I mean, everything remains to be seen at this time. But Trump's been saying, he's like, look, all the projections are looking really good for the third quarter and really good for the fourth quarter. We're going to have a really good fourth quarter. So, man, I hope so.
Well, I was going to just tell you this really quickly. I don't want to get off track, but recently I did a show this past Monday with some friends in Canada, and they had mentioned about this individual, John III, the true king of Britain, and how this guy is coming out and has all the credentials. And what is strange about this individual is that he also mentions and that Trump has recognized him as being the true king, and that Elizabeth and all them, that they were the the usurpers. And so this individual, I was watching some interviews about him, but he also makes mention of Trump, taking over the Federal Reserve. And so, is this another confirming witness? I mean, I don't know, but as you, I do remain hopeful, and I do pray that there is something to these indictments coming down, and that some of these pedophiles are going to get locked up, and that justice shall be served. I mean, I would be all about that, and so we'll see. And I
mean, I go back and forth on this. I really do.
Yeah, I do too.
I've tried to stay out of the political stuff as much as possible because I don't really believe much in the whole system, but it's almost impossible to stay out of it now. I mean, with so much on, man, I mean, it's just insane out there. It's gone completely insane.
It is. It's absolutely insane.
In the meantime, there's always this narrative in the background, and I'm like, okay, when's this stuff going to happen then? If this stuff is true.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's 4 years already. Come on.
Yeah, but
what are you waiting on?
Some people have been like, dude, what are you talking about? And they sent me some stuff and was like, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened, this happened. I'm going, well, okay. That's pretty awesome if it has. I mean, I hope it has.
Right.
how do you vet it, right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, we thought there was some kind of a big win with the Jeffrey Epstein deal.
Right.
Now, I mean, I do believe he's dead, but I don't believe he killed himself.
Neither do I.
The medical evidence strongly suggests otherwise, that he was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
The
crushing of his
throat, whatever deal that would not be consistent with a self-hanging
right
off of a bed rail.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that begs the question, like, who did it, and what were they trying to cover up? And because when he goes, the hope was that when he went down, it would take down the whole ring, right?
Right.
So, of course, everybody else involved did that, so the next thing he's dead, right?
Right. Wow, that went quick.
Yeah.
Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity, but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures.
Hello everybody. As you know, in our Digital Readers Club, we just finished the Great Commission 3 on the end time apocalypses and are now moving forward, because of your vote, into the Yahushua Christ, the infancy, gospels, early childhood, and lost year narratives. And so in this particular book, and the reason I compiled it is because there's only one account in the entire Bible that relays anything with regard to the youth of Christ. And it is the story of when he's 13 years old and he leaves Mary and Joseph, and they, retracing their steps, find him teaching the rabbis and the elders in the Holy Temple, the Jerusalem Temple, about the mysteries of the heavens. And so I wanted those of us that are believers and that hold and have faith in Christ to have the fullness of the stories and the accounts of his early life that are available to those that wish to know more. And so that was the reason for the compilation of all of these accounts, is to give you better insight into who our Savior Messiah is, and how he was, even in his youth, without question, he was the fullness, the incarnation of God, and that he had the authority, even then, of life and death, and that Mary used even his bathwater and his swaddling clothes to heal leprosy and to bring people out of their demonic possessions. And so I believe that the study of this material will greatly bless your life and help you to better understand the core tenets of why we believe on him and know without question that salvation is through him.
Every day, questions arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses?
Which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible.
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us every other Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together.
Back on the Revolutionary Radio Project. I'm your host, Rob Skiba, and we're continuing our study of the Book of Enoch. And right before we went to the break, we were reading from chapter 96, and the last verse there, "Woe to you, ye mighty, who with might oppress the righteous, for the day of your destruction is coming. In those days, many and good days shall come to the righteous in the day of your judgment." I'm hoping that we're getting close to that because...
Amen.
Man, I mean, I have been praying like so much, like, I mean, with all these kids, I mean, the number of children that go missing every year is just outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
With the largest numbers happening here in the States. And,
right.
You know, I mean, my heart just breaks for these kids. I'm praying like daily, like, Father, please set the captive free and punish the wicked.
Right.
And you know, I have to believe if everybody starts praying that sooner or later it's gotta happen. And
yes,
and you hear these stories, you know, in the pro-Trump Q crowd. Now let me just say I wouldn't consider myself pro either one. I'm cautiously hopeful. I'm stepping back. I'm watching. There are lots of things that Trump says and does that I love. There's lots of things that he says and does that I don't care much. So.
Right.
You know, don't be, you know, jumping on me. And frankly, the Democrats are just bat crap crazy, insane, beyond insane. Rails on the crazy train. Looney Tunes, completely psycho. So, you know, I look at all these things and then you hear this narrative in the background always cranking along saying all these indictments taking place and the cabal is shaking in their boots and major changes happening. Like I just found out recently about the Black Pope being murdered. Was it in Italy or Spain or someplace?
Really?
Whereas the Black Pope was taken out. And of course, wasn't there something about the regular Pope that just renounced the title of Vicar of Christ or something?
Well, again, you know, that whole thing or some of that behind the scenes seems to be connected to this John III, King John III, which I just only spent one day looking into and researching who this guy is. And he seems to have the credentials, and there seems to be a lot of hype on this story, and that some of that, the Pope, you know, as far as Benedict giving up his seat and all of that, and even they said that they have taken down the crest off of Buckingham Palace and things of that nature. So I don't really know, but there seems to be something really weird about this guy. He claims to be of that Merovingian bloodline, you know, and of the bloodline of Christ and all of that, and I think that he's pushing the whole thing of what the Dan Brown crowd is saying, that Sangreal and that Christ had children and all that, and but he seems to be like an antichrist figure, in my opinion, which is really strange because, you know, we have the prophecy of the popes. We're at the 112th one, the last one, Petrus Romanus, and according to all of that, if he is that, then I would equate him to being the false prophet, and that if this individual is who this antichrist figure could be, because he claims to be Messiah, and I mean, just all kind of crazy stuff comes out of his mouth, but a lot of people are believing, and he says that he has endorsements from Trump and Putin and people in Jerusalem, and the support of even, you know, the papacy and the royals, and so I don't know, but this individual seems to have a lot of credentials behind him, and there's weird things happening also on the world scene that seem to be connected to him as well. Like, you know, again, with the thing of the Federal Reserve and all that. And so who knows? I mean, I don't know, but, you know, I do think that those kind of things have to happen. The false prophet, the Antichrist coming, the beast system, the peace plan as far as Israel and Palestine, and that that later covenant will be broken, and that all has to happen and be in place before the return of the true Messiah. And so, if we are in those times, my goodness, if he comes on stage and all of that is a fulfillment of those kind of things, that could really accelerate things even faster in advancement than has been expected.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, what do you do, right? I mean,
yeah.
All I know is I got to occupy until he returns. And
yes.
For me, that, I know what that means, I need to keep busy, but
yes,
you're right. I mean, there is just so much happening on the scene right now. While you're talking, I looked it up. It's Father Adolfo Nicholas, former Jesuit superior, dies in Tokyo. Black Pope, Jesuit, satanic leader of the Catholic Church, found dead in Tokyo. He was the Father General of the entire Catholic order. His hands are bloody with the souls of countless trafficked, abused, harvested, and raped, murdered children for a long time. So he's found dead in Tokyo. So, I mean, there are interesting things, and there are people who, I confess, I in the beginning of the whole Q thing, when I first heard about it, I was, checking the Q drops and looking and listening to everybody that was doing everything to interpret things. And, I kept up with it for a little while, but then afterwards I just I just dropped it, and then I became very cynical and skeptical about the whole thing. But there are people, diehard people out there who are still sending me stuff all the time. They're like, yeah, I mean, check this out. And, how do you vet any of it? I mean, that's the hard part. And
right.
But there was a really good video. It's called Freedom or Slavery, the X-22 report, that I just watched just actually not too long before we went on the air. Let me see if I can put that on the screen here. That if you haven't heard it or listened to it, it's actually a really good interview. Let me switch that over here. It's called Freedom or Slavery X2 report by it was put on the channel SGT report. Channel SGT. And I lean much more towards the point of view that SJT had. X22 dude was like rah rah Trump, rah rah Q, and giving the super narrative of how everything's going to be wonderful again. And SGT was being a lot more reserved and cynical about it. But it was a good dialogue, I thought, between both of them. I think both people made some really good points. And, I like I said, I lean more towards the SGT report guy's point of view. But, I remain hopeful.
Right.
That chapter that we just read, of course, unfortunately, Enoch doesn't give us a time period for when these things are going to happen. But, someday, apparently, it is going to happen, and there are many good days will be ahead for the righteous when they get their due. Just don't know if that
right
or not.
Yeah. Well, if it's the harvest, and again, if all these things align with the false prophet and the Antichrist coming on the stage, which this guy coming out of nowhere, I'd never heard of him until just a couple of days ago, but just looking at some of the stuff with this King John III, he could certainly be that personage. And then and if that is the false prophet and the Antichrist come on the world stage, well then certainly things could accelerate, and it could unfold as the fig tree generation. All that could be within our lifetimes, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, one way or another. I mean, what are we going to do, right?
Right, exactly.
It's not like it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Right.
Verse 2, though, of this chapter caught my attention. In the day of the tribulation of the sinners, your children shall mount and rise as eagles, and higher than the vultures will be your nests. So you're rising like eagles and like vultures. But then it says, and you shall ascend and enter the crevices of the earth. You would think, well, wait a minute, that's descent. So where are they ascending from?
Right.
That one kind of threw me for a loop there, because it's talking about tribulations, the day of the tribulation of the sinners, your children shall mount up. Unless it's talking about, is it talking about, who's it talking to here? Okay, let me go back and read that again. But hopeful, ye righteous, for suddenly shall the sinners perish before you, and ye shall have lordship over them according to desires. So that's to the righteous. And in the day of the tribulation of the sinners, your children. So I'm assuming the antecedent here, your being the children of the righteous,
right,
shall mount up and rise as eagles, higher than the vultures will be your nest, and ye shall ascend and enter the crevices of the earth, and the clefts of the rock forever as conies before the unrighteous. And the sirens shall sigh because of you and weep. What do you make of that? That's pretty bizarre.
Yeah, that is bizarre, because entering the crevices of the earth, that would seem
down.
like, yeah, like you're in the interior, and the righteous, in my opinion, are if they're dead, they're already above the vaulted dome, and if they're alive, then they would be on the earth. And if you're mounting up, because that seems to me like if you are going to be preserved, like when Christ comes again and all the dead are called up into the air to meet him, then that would make sense. But here, ascending up to the crevices of the earth, that is kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
I wonder what the word is, as far as crevices.
Yeah, let me go back and look at Lawrence, because it struck me as I was reading Lawrence too, but more so when I read when I was listening to Charles. In the Lawrence, in the day of the sufferings of sinners, your offspring shall be elevated and lifted up like eagles. Your nest shall be more exalted than that of the Avest. I don't know. I guess that's Charles calls that vultures. You shall ascend. Same thing. Ascend and enter into the cavities of the earth and into the clefts of the rocks forever, like conies from the sight of the ungodly. So it's basically the same.
Yeah, because I was thinking, if there is association to, something of the earth, with the Mount Meru, Mount Olympus, being, the tallest supposedly mountain in the world, and reaching up even unto the throne of the Most High, because that's where, even the angels gather, the council of the mighty, for the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, if that would be somehow associated to what it's talking about here. But that's just really weird, crevices or cracks in a rock. I don't know what to really make of that.
Let me see. I'll take a look at Dr. Ken Johnson's.
Oh, good idea. Yeah.
Just if he had any insight on it. He has this noted as the rapture event.
Yeah, it seems to be, as far as mountain rise as eagles.
Yeah. He marks that as the rapture, and then where it says sinners will enter the crevices of the earth and the clefts of the rock. He
says sinners there.
Well, no. In the previous verse where the eagles, he had that as a rapture event, but the next part of that where it says the sinners. And the footnote he has for that is the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens in the rocks of the mountains. Revelation 6:15.
Yeah, and called for the rocks to fall on them and hide them from the face of the Lamb. But we're taking this as not being the sinners, but the righteous. But he's ascribing it to the sinners.
Yeah.
Which that would make sense to me, but...
Yeah. Maybe the antecedent is sinners there. That would make sense.
Yeah.
And in the day of the tribulation of the sinners, your children shall... Yeah, so it's the your children part that gets you tripped up here, grammatically.
Yes, right.
Grammatically, it seems like it's still addressing the righteous of verse 1.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
But I guess it's like one of those things. Is it the old lady or the young lady picture where you look at it and it morphs right in front of your face? Like all of a sudden, I can kind of now see it morphing the other way, the way
Right.
Ken's saying
Right.
it. That would make more sense.
Yes, it would.
And he gives a cross reference for that being Revelation 6:15.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I could go with that.
Yeah, I can see that.
And
that would make a lot more sense because the righteous, are caught up
above like eagles.
Yeah, right. And then the sinners are wanting the mountains and the rocks to fall on them and hide them from the face of the coming of the Lord.
Wait a minute, it just morphed back again on me. Because it says we're the ones rising like eagles in the higher,
Mm-hmm.
and ye shall ascend. I don't know, man. It's flipping back.
It's bizarre, yeah.
So let's see what else Ken has to say here. And where it says the sirens, there he has satyrs or demons. And he has footnote E. What is E in reference to here? E is in reference to verse 6. So what is verse? Woe to you who drink water from every fountain, for suddenly shall ye be consumed and wither away, because ye have forsaken the fountain of life. So his footnote on that is, for my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water. Jeremiah 2:13 is his cross-reference. And then another one, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. Revelation 21:6. Interesting cross-references he's got there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd go with that.
He did good work.
Yeah. Thank you, Kenny.
Yeah.
Let me see here. All right. We got 9 minutes. We can.
All right.
So for me, this is Lawrence chapter 96. The righteous are confident that sinners will be disgraced and perish in the day of iniquity. You shall yourselves be conscious of it, for the Most High will remember your destruction, and the angels shall rejoice over it. What will you do, ye sinners, and where will you fly in the day of judgment, when you shall hear the words of the prayer of the righteous? You are not like them who in this respect witness against you. You are associates of sinners. In those days shall the prayers of the righteous come up before the Lord, when the day of your judgment shall arrive, and every circumstance of your iniquity be related before the great and the Holy One. Your faces shall be covered with shame, while every deed strengthened by crime shall be rejected. Woe unto you sinners, who in the midst of the sea and on dry land are those against whom an evil record exists. Woe to you who squander silver and gold, not obtained in righteousness, and say, we are rich, possess wealth, and have acquired everything which we can desire. Now then will we do whatsoever we are disposed to do, for we have amassed silver, our barns are full, and the husbandmen of our families are like overflowing water. Like water shall your falsehood pass away, for your wealth will not be permanent, but shall suddenly ascend from you, because you have obtained it all iniquitously. To extreme malediction shall you be delivered up. And now I swear to you, ye crafty as well as simple ones, that you often contemplating the earth, you who are men, clothe yourselves more elegantly than married women, and both together more so than unmarried ones, everywhere arraying yourselves in majesty, in magnificence, in authority, and in silver, but gold, purple, honor, and wealth like water flow away. Erudition, therefore, and wisdom are not theirs. Thus shall they perish together with their riches, with all their glory and with their honors, while with disgrace, with slaughter, and in extreme penury shall their spirits be thrust into the furnace of fire. I have sworn to you, ye sinners, that neither mountain nor hill has been or shall be subservient to women. Neither in this way has crime been sent down to us upon earth, but men of their own deeds have invented it, and greatly shall those who give it efficiency be execrated. You know what? I don't use like any of these words in normal English. I'm I'm a dumb 21st century American. This guy's like Webster.
Your translation seems to have a lot of the hard words.
And Barrenness shall, of course, that just goes to show you, because people back in the 1800s, like sixth graders talk like this. Wow. Barrenness shall not be previously inflicted on women, but on account of the work of her hands shall she die childless. I have sworn to you, ye sinners, by the Holy and the Great One, that all your evil deeds are disclosed in the heavens, and that none of your oppressive acts are concealed in secret. Think not in your minds, neither say in your hearts that every crime is not manifested and seen. In heaven it is daily written down before the Most High. Henceforwards shall it be manifested, for every act of oppression which you commit shall be daily recorded until the period of your condemnation. Woe to you, ye simple ones, for you shall perish in your simplicity. To the wise you will not listen, and that which is good you shall not obtain. Now therefore know that you are destined to the day of destruction, nor hope that sinners shall have, but in process of time you shall die, for you are not marked for redemption, but are destined to the day of the great judgment, to the day of distress and the extreme ignominy of your souls. Woe to you, ye obdurate of heart, who commit crime and feed on blood. Whence is it that you feed on good things, drink, and are satiated? Is it not because our Lord, the Most High, has abundantly supplied every good thing upon earth? To you there shall not be peace. Woe to you who love the deeds of iniquity. Why do you hope for that which is good? Know that you shall be given up into the hands of the righteous, who shall cut off your necks, slay you, and show you no compassion. Woe to you who rejoice in the trouble of the righteous, for a grave shall not be dug for you. Woe to you who frustrate the word of the righteous, for to you there shall be no hope of life. Woe to you who write down the words of falsehood and the word of the wicked, for their falsehood they record, that they may hear and not forget folly. To them there shall be no peace, but they shall surely die suddenly.
Okay, well, for me, that's 2 chapters.
Yeah.
So I can go through the first one, I believe.
We'll probably get the first one before the break.
Yeah.
4 minutes.
All right. 97. Believe, ye righteous, that the sinners will become a shame and perish in the day of unrighteousness. Be it known unto you, ye sinners, that the Most High is mindful of your destruction, and the angels of heaven rejoice over your destruction. What will ye do, ye sinners, and whither will ye flee on that day of judgment? When ye hear the voice of the prayer of the righteous, yea, ye shall fare like unto them, against whom this word shall be a testimony. Ye have been companions of sinners. And in those days the prayer of the righteous shall reach unto the Lord, and for you the days of your judgment shall come, and all the words of your unrighteousness shall be read out before the great Holy One, and your faces shall be covered with shame. And he will reject every work which is grounded on unrighteousness. Woe to you, ye sinners, who live on the mid-ocean and on the dry land, whose remembrance is evil against you. Woe to you who acquire silver and gold in unrighteousness and say, we have become rich with riches and have possessions and have acquired everything we have desired. And now let us do what we purposed, for we have gathered silver, and many are the husbandmen in our houses, and our granaries are brim full as with water. Yea, and like water your lies shall flow away, for your riches shall not abide, but speedily ascend from you. For ye have acquired it all in unrighteousness, and ye shall be given over to a great curse.
Wow, like that sounded just like Jeffrey Epstein right there.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Especially verse 7. Woe to you, ye sinners, who live on the mid-ocean and on the dry land.
Right.
This little island there.
Island, exactly, yeah. Pedophile island.
Yeah. That literally got away with everything.
Yeah.
Like, and he knew it. He's like, yeah, I can just get away with anything. You know?
I mean, he literally had raped and molested like thousands of young girls. I don't know if you saw the trials, his trial there on Netflix. But
yeah, I did see bits and pieces of it, and
yeah,
there was something like what 40 women that came forward, but they represent hundreds,
and probably even thousands, because he literally had 16-year-old girls. He would pay them $200 to recruit anybody that they would bring over to have sex with him, and then he would also pay the girls that he had sex with $200. And so he had all these 16-year-olds that were homeless or didn't have money, and they would basically talk their girlfriends into going over there, and then they were working as pimps for him. And then all these young girls that didn't have couldn't get money from anywhere else, they were taking him up on his offer. And so he had
sick.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's horrible. It's horrible what was going on over there.
Well, he's definitely, if he's still alive, I personally think he's dead, but either way, he's getting his due.
Yeah, absolutely.
Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures.
Hello everybody. As you know, in our Digital Readers Club, we just finished the Great Commission 3 on the end time apocalypses and are now moving forward because of your vote into the Yahushua Christ, the infancy, gospels, early childhood, and lost year narratives. And so in this particular book, and the reason I compiled it is because there's only one account in the entire Bible that relays anything with regard to the youth of Christ, and it is the story of when he's 13 years old and he leaves Mary and Joseph, and they, retracing their steps, find him teaching the rabbis and the elders in the Holy Temple, the Jerusalem Temple, about the mysteries of the heavens. And so I wanted those of us that are believers and that hold and have faith in Christ to have the fullness of the stories and the accounts of his early life that are available to those that wish to know more. And so that was the reason for the compilation of all of these accounts, is to give you better insight into who our Savior Messiah is and how he was, even in his youth, without question, he was the fullness, the incarnation of God, and that he had the authority even then of life and death, and that Mary used even his bathwater and his swaddling clothes to heal leprosy and to bring people out of their demonic possessions. And so I believe that the study of this material will greatly bless your life and help you to better understand the core tenets of why we believe on him and know without question that salvation is through him.
Every day, questions arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses,
which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible?
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us every other Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together.
And we're back on the Revolutionary Radio Project. I'm your host, Rob Skiba, for the second hour of the broadcast. I'm joined with my friend and co-host, Zen Garcia, and we are going through the Book of Enoch. And during the break, I was going through the comments, and somebody had an interesting insight on the issue of the eagles and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That back up on the screen again. And in the day of the tribulation of the sinners, your children shall mount and rise as eagles, and higher than the vultures will be your nest. You shall ascend and enter the crevices of the earth and the clefts of the rock for every. So what he's saying, somebody in the chat room, well, I don't know if it's a he or she actually by the screen name, but this person was saying eagles and vultures nest in rock cliffs. Rock cliffs have crevices and are very high up.
Yeah.
High up. So,
oh yeah, that makes sense.
That's an interesting argument.
So that could be Mount of the Congregation.
You know, it's
something.
It's one of those things where you kind of look at, again. I see the old lady, young lady. It just kind of flips back and forth on me.
Right.
Of course, Ken Johnson's explanation too. So
yeah,
something to consider either way. I think the conversation is good. But before the break, we were talking about Epstein Island and all the horrors and everything that was going on there. I mean, the guy got away with it. I mean, he was 60-something years old when they finally took him down.
Mm-hmm.
How many decades and how many people, not just in the States too, like all over the world.
Right.
Happening. Just horrible.
Right. And, for those of us that know what goes on as far as the high levels, that they are trafficking kids, and he was trafficking some of these young girls that expected basically to have to perform sexual favors for other individuals. And so that's just the way it is. And so we know even now that there's a lot of sex trafficking of young girls, especially those that are coming out of the wars, Iraq and Syria and places of that nature, that are refugees and going to these different countries, that they're being treated in that manner. It was the same way with the Serbian wars and other wars, and there unfortunately always seems to be DINOCOR and how they were caught trafficking kids and women. And so these kind of things have been ongoing for a very long time. There's a very elaborate system that is maintained and supported by very wealthy individuals that do this kind of thing, and they have been getting away with it. And so that's one of the reasons why, looking forward to justice, that they will get their due.
Either here or there.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to be careful because I don't want to wish eternal damnation in hell to anybody. Would rather God himself said he's not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. And so, I certainly do pray that people come to repentance on this side, but I also pray that they reap what they sow.
Absolutely.
There has to be justice for the victims.
Right.
And I believe God is a just God, and he's going to do that. So,
yes.
And that's the very, one of the very few things that gives me any measure of hope at all in the Q narrative is that it seems to cater towards that yes, these people are going to get their due, that they, all these indictments and, the cabal is being exposed and draining the swamp, all that kind of stuff. So, who knows? I mean, there's no way to vet it, and I can't do anything about it either way, but
right.
Just kind of sit on the sidelines and comment on it.
Yeah. But like the power of prayer has lasting and direct impact and influence. And so I think the prayers of the saints goes a long ways in, also bringing forth as far as the reap what you sow. And that God also tells us in the scriptures that for those that harm the innocent and the children, that they really have hell to pay.
Well, yeah. I mean, just look at what Yeshua says. It's better for you. Like it's like not good. Like
yes.
Have you seen the series The Chosen?
I have not yet, but that is on my to-do list as well. Yeah, that and Out of the Shadows very soon. Yeah.
Yeah. What I love about The Chosen is, well, first of all, it's a crowdfunded project, and it's shooting here in Texas, not too far from me actually. It's like 45 minutes away, I think.
Oh, is it ongoing still?
Yeah, they're still
really. Wow.
But I believe it was episode 3 of season 1 that showed Jesus with the children and him interacting. I mean, they're taking creative liberties, of course, but yeah, I think they're doing taking reasonable creative liberties with the text, and just showing his heart for children.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we get bits and pieces of it in the biblical narrative. To see it played out the way they dramatized it, I thought was very well done. And,
awesome.
And don't be messing with his kids.
Right. Absolutely not. Yeah. Yeah, because the children are innocent and just full of awe and wonder. I think a lot that they are how we should be with that kind of disposition, and that adults really lose that or grow out of that when taking on all the responsibilities of the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So yours
98.
Okay.
Yeah, chapter 98. And now I swear unto you, to the wise and to the foolish, for ye shall have manifold experiences on the earth. For ye men shall put on more adornments than a woman, and colored garments more than a virgin, in royalty and in grandeur and in power, and in silver and in gold and in purple, and in splendor and in food they shall be poured out as water. Therefore they shall be wanting in doctrine and wisdom, and they shall perish thereby together with their possessions, and with all their glory and splendor. And in shame and in slaughter and in great destitution, their spirits shall be cast into the furnace of fire. I have sworn unto you, ye sinners, as a mountain has not become a slave, and a hill does not become the handmaid of a woman, even so sin has not been sent upon the earth, but man of himself has created it. And under a great curse shall they fall who commit it. And barrenness has not been given to the woman, but on account of the deeds of her own hands she dies without children. I have sworn unto you, ye sinners, by the Holy Great One, that all your evil deeds are revealed in the heavens, and that none of your deeds of oppression are covered and hidden. And do not think in your spirit, nor say in your heart, that you do not know and that you do not see, that every sin is every day recorded in heaven in the presence of the Most High. From henceforth ye know that all your oppression herewith ye oppress is written down every day till the day of your judgment. Woe to you, ye fools! For through your folly shall ye perish, and ye transgress against the wise, and so good hap shall not be your portion. And now know ye that ye are prepared for the day of destruction. Wherefore do not hope to live, ye sinners, but ye shall depart and die. For ye know no ransom, for ye are prepared for the day of the great judgment, for the day of tribulation and great shame for your spirits. Woe to you, ye obstinate of heart, who work wickedness and eat blood. Whence have ye good things to eat and to drink and to be filled? From all the good things which the Lord the Most High has placed in abundance on the earth. Therefore ye shall have no peace. Woe to you who love the deeds of unrighteousness. Wherefore do ye hope for good hap unto yourselves? Know that ye shall be delivered into the hands of the righteous, and they shall cut off your necks, and slay you, and have no mercy upon you. Woe to you who rejoice in the tribulation of the righteous, for no grave shall be dug for you. Woe to you who set at naught the words of the righteous, for ye shall have no hope of life. Woe to you who write down lying and godless words, For they write down their lies that men may hear them and act godlessly towards their neighbor. Therefore, they shall have no peace, but die a sudden death.
So is that where, yeah, die sudden. Okay, so we're both caught up at that point.
Yes.
Verse 7, and do not think in your spirit, nor say in your heart that you do not know, and that you do not see that every sin is every day recorded in heaven in the presence of the Most High. From henceforth ye know that all your oppression, hence wherewith ye oppress, is written down every day to the day of your judgment. That must be one heck of a large library volume of books.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Down.
Right. There's more detail of this in both the Chronicles of Jeremiah as well as in the Vision of Paul, where it talks about and shows what occurs to both a righteous soul and a wicked soul after dying, and then how it is both the guardian angel that accompanies us and that daily goes up at twilight to report on the activities of men, and then all of their deeds are written into the books of remembrance, the books of life. And so these are the books that are opened at the, the great white throne judgment as well. But it is the guardian angel as well as the Holy Spirit that comes forth and either convicts you or, sides with you and reports for you and supports you in living a righteous life. And so, yeah, those things, I think it's chapter 12 through 23 in the Vision of Paul, which gives more detail about this.
Wow. I mean, man, that's a lot to record.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What else? Verse 12 caught my attention too. Woe to
and
you,
11.
11?
Yeah.
Woe to you, obstinate of heart, who work wickedness and eat blood. Oh, yeah, eat blood.
Mm-hmm.
Whence eat good things, eat and drink could be. Yeah, I've been sort of, I haven't really, I haven't dived too deep into it, but I've been seeing some things that my friend Dr. Judd Burton has been posting. Like he's always had this thing for vampires and vampiric lore and how all that takes place throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
And he just posted something recently about that. But I mean, it all goes hand in hand, right? I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely.
The drinking of blood and just cannibalism and everything.
Right. Have you Micah chapter 3, those few verses? I'm not sure, but I'll read these for you real quick. It says, "And I said, Hear, I pray you, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel. Is it not for you to know judgment, who hate the good and love the evil, who pluck off their skin from off them, and their flesh from off their bones, who also eat the flesh of my people, and flay their skin from off them, and they break their bones and chop them in pieces, as for the pot, and as flesh within the cauldron. Then shall they cry unto the Lord, but he will not hear them. He will even hide his face from them at that time, as they have behaved themselves ill in their doings." And so, this, in my opinion, is confirmation that they most certainly did engage in such behavior.
It's just horrible.
It is. It's
I saw
god-awful.
something. Yeah, I saw something. Take it for whatever it is. It's a meme right on Facebook, but it was a meme with Macaulay Culkin. It was a picture of him talking about some of the things that he supposedly witnessed in Hollywood, and some unnamed character that he was describing bragging about the leather shoes that he was wearing that were made from human skin.
Oh my gosh.
That the person made reference to, I think it was if I'm not mistaken, the young girl that was in Poltergeist. And according to that meme, Macaulay Culkin reckoned that he was saying that the leather of his shoes was from her.
Oh, that's horrible.
Just terrible.
But, it does not surprise me that these kind of things go on and happen, and like the adrenochrome and all of that as well, and how they joke about that. And, that's horrible. And the terrorizing of individuals in order to flood their bodies with this adrenaline at the point of it being extracted from them. I mean, just those kind of things as well. It's insane, but it seems to be true.
And it seems to have been put right in our face in the movie Monsters Inc.
Oh, I haven't seen that. So.
Well, yeah, and it's done as a comedy. It's a funny movie, but the monsters, their job is to scare children, and the fear, they literally live off the fear. It's like their food, and so they had all the fear meter, kind of thing going on, and how much fear they were causing. You just watch this movie. It's just a fun, innocent, funny movie.
Right.
You go and look at the other side of this, and you go, wait a minute, is it right in your face? I mean, are they really telegraphing these things? And I don't, who knows if there was intent in the filmmaker's side to do that, but I don't know these days,
Never any coincidences. Always seems to be something behind, what they portray in movies.
Mm-hmm. In verse 12, it was saying, "Woe to you who love the deeds of unrighteousness! Wherefore do you hope for good hap unto yourselves? Know that ye shall be delivered into the hands of the righteous, and they shall cut off your necks and slay you, and have no mercy upon you." That's the first time I've ever heard of the bad guys getting their heads cut off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. And it does seem, that their intent is to bring on such punishment to the saints. And I also think, and I was writing about this earlier today, because there's a passage in the Wisdom of Solomon that talks about how during the Exodus, the fiery serpents that attack Israel and then bite them, and then Moshe puts the image of the seraph on top of the pole, crushing the head of the serpent, or something of that nature. But anyways, these particular beings, these entities, were said to be basilisks that had the ability to breathe fire, and that they had the supernatural ability, like a gorgon, to frighten men to death, almost, like as in turning them into stone with their, almost like an evil eye. And this comes forth in the Wisdom of Solomon, and it's also linked to Joel chapter 2 and Revelation 9, that at the end of the days the locust army are loosed upon the world to bring forth the wrath of God on those not written into the books of life. And I was talking about how it's my belief that God is going to remove his hand at the end of days and allow, just like he did in the time of the Exodus, that they worship these particular serpentine beings, and that the elites are trying to open and conjure even in this day and age. I think like things of CERN and like that, and as they did during the time of Atlantis, and bringing up these interdimensional beings and stuff and inviting evil into this world, that God will allow them to succeed, but little do they know that it will be part of the wrath that is poured out on them, whereas they are thinking that these demonic forces and these demonic entities are coming in order to make war with the saints, but God will protect us and allow them to be judged by those things that they worship and that they are involved in.
Yeah, and that's the thing about God. He gives warning after warning after warning.
Right.
And then when he gets to the point of turning people over to reprobate mind and heart, he's like, okay, if that's what you want.
Exactly. Yeah.
Here you go. You're going to have so much quail, you're going to be puking your brains out.
Right.
You want to go after other gods? You don't want to worship me? Well, guess what? Have it.
Exactly. Yes.
Hey, Israel, you want to whore after other gods? You don't want to listen to me? You get 390 years of judgment. And, oh, by the way, if you don't repent, you get 7 times more.
Right.
So, hence the Northern Kingdom dispersed into the pagan world for over 2,730 years, getting what they want. Right.
Right.
And it never ends up good when you go down that path. And they even depict this a lot of times, even in the movies, right? You make a deal with the devil, and at first everything's wonderful, but it always turns out bad in the end.
Right. There are consequences.
Yep. All right. Well, we got, 5 minutes. I think we can probably get through some more here before the break. Chapter 97 for me in the Lawrence. Let me see. Do we have time to get through this? Yeah, maybe. I'll try to read fast here.
All right.
Woe to them who act impiously, who laud and honor the word of falsehood. You have been lost in perdition and have never led a virtuous life. Woe to you who change the words of integrity. They transgress against the everlasting decree and cause the heads of those who are not sinners to be trodden down upon the earth. In those days you, O righteous, shall have been deemed worthy of having your prayers rise up in remembrance, and shall have deposited them in the testimony before the angels, that they might record the sins of sinners in the presence of the Most High. In those days the nations shall be overthrown, but the families of the nations shall rise again in the day of perdition. In those days they who become pregnant shall go forth, carry off their children and forsake them. Their offspring shall slip from them, and while suckling them shall they forsake them. They shall never return to them and never instruct their beloved. Again, I swear to you, ye sinners, that crime has been prepared for the day of blood, which never ceases. They shall worship stones and engraven golden, silver, and wooden images. They shall worship impure spirits, demons, and every idol in the temples, but no help shall be obtained for them. Their hearts shall become impious through their folly, and their eyes be blinded with mental superstition. In their visionary dreams shall they be impious and superstitious, lying in all their actions and worshiping a stone. Altogether they shall perish. But in those days blessed shall they be to whom the word of wisdom is delivered, who point out and pursue the path of the Most High, who walk in the ways of righteousness, and who act not impiously and with the impious. They shall be saved. Woe to you who expand the crime of your neighbor, for in hell shall you be slain. Woe to you who lay the foundation of sin and deceit, and who are bitter on earth, for on it shall you be consumed. Woe to you who build your houses by the labor of others, every part of which is constructed with brick and with the stone of crime. I tell you that you shall not obtain peace. Woe to you who despise the extent of the everlasting inheritance of your fathers, while your souls follow after idols. For to you there shall be no tranquility. Woe to them who commit iniquity and give aid to blasphemy, who slay their neighbor until the day of the great judgment. For your glory shall fall. Malevolence shall he put into your hearts, and the spirit of his wrath shall stir you up, that every one of you may perish by the sword. Then shall all the righteous and the holy remember your crimes. In all these apocalyptic renderings, we constantly see that people are going to be put to death by the sword. Mm-hmm. And I've often wondered about that, because in our day, very few people are using swords in warfare.
Right.
So I've often wondered, is something going to happen that we would have already expended our weapons, or will our weapons be done away with? Maybe perhaps in a time where there's lots of violence, and then let's say an Antichrist figure rises up and says, okay, enough's enough, and declares peace, and all weapons have to be destroyed. Mm-hmm. Have you ever given any thought to that, or are you taking weapons or swords to just be weapons in general, or being more literal like I am?
No, I have considered that and looked at it. in that kind of light as well. Same thing with the horses, as far as the Million Man Army and what does something happen, like the whole EMP that takes out all the control systems, all the computer networks, and, everything that could reduce things to a dark age very quickly, and set everything back several centuries or decades or whatever. And so those are things to consider. And then the more that technology becomes involved with weapons and everything, as far as the the military is concerned, that they are getting very, very fancy with everything. And so if there is a time that, even as they said, whether the batteries or the computer systems or the whatever, if that goes out, then you get set back into the dark ages.
Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures.
Hello everybody. As you know, in our Digital Readers Club, we just finished the Great Commission 3 on the end time apocalypses and are now moving forward, because of your vote, into the Yahushua Christ, the infancy, gospels, early childhood, and lost year narratives. And so in this particular book, and the reason I compiled it is because there's only one account in the entire Bible that relays anything with regard to the youth of Christ. And it is the story of when he's 13 years old and he leaves Mary and Joseph, and they, retracing their steps, find him teaching the rabbis and the elders in the Holy Temple, the Jerusalem Temple, about the mysteries of the heavens. And so I wanted those of us that are believers and that hold and have faith in Christ to have the fullness of the stories and the accounts of his early life that are available to those that wish to know more. And so that was the reason for the compilation of all of these accounts, is to give you better insight into who our Savior Messiah is, and how he was, even in his youth, without question, he was the fullness, the incarnation of God, and that he had the authority, even then, of life and death, and that Mary used even his bathwater and his swaddling clothes to heal leprosy and to bring people out of their demonic possessions. And so I believe that the study of this material will greatly bless your life and help you to better understand the core tenets of why we believe on him and know without question that salvation is through him.
Every day, questions arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses,
which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible?
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us every other Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together.
Rob Skiba for the final half-hour segment of the broadcast, talking with my guest and co-host Zen Garcia, discussing the Book of Enoch. And we were talking before the break about this whole idea in the end times that people are fighting with swords. And what does that mean? I mean, when you think of DARPA and just the modern weapons that are available today, I mean, they are so high-tech and so, just incredible in what they can do. Is the word swords just a metaphor for weapons in general? Is that the only thing that they could have understood as weaponry, back then? Or is it are we gonna find ourselves in a situation where somehow we're all thrown into the dark ages? I've gone back and forth on it. It's interesting. One of the worst Superman movies was Superman 4, and in that movie, Superman's like, okay, I've made a decision. There's going to be no more nuclear weapons. I'm getting rid of all of them. So Superman takes it upon himself to get rid of all nuclear weapons. Could we have a situation where the world just descends into such chaos that and violence that a world leader finally gets up and says, okay, that's it. Enough's enough. Getting rid of all that stuff. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on it, but there was somebody in the chat room, April, posted something about Ezekiel 13, and that has always been a really interesting passage to me, beginning in Ezekiel 13, beginning in verse 18, thus saith the Lord God, woe to the women that sew pillows to all armholes and make kerchiefs upon the head of every stature to hunt souls. Will ye hunt the souls of my people, and will ye save the souls alive that come unto you? And will ye pollute me among my people for handfuls of barley and for pieces of bread, to slay the souls that should not die, and to save the souls alive that should not live? By your lying to my people that hear your lies? Wherefore, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against your pillows, wherewith ye there hunt the souls to make them fly, and I will tear them from your arms, and will let the souls go, even the souls that ye hunt to make them fly. Let me see if it goes on any further into that. Well, it's talking about divinations and all sorts of wickedness. And looking at other translations, and I'm not going to go through all this, but that whole passage, you really do have to go look at various translations. I mean, King James talks about pillows. Other translations talk about magic bands that snare souls and keep alive souls that are meant to die and kill souls that are meant to live. And you're like, what is going on here? And I remember listening to a broadcast that Tom Horn and Steve Quayle did a number of years ago, talking about this, and I forget the words, kasetot, mespetot, something like that. There were different words used, but essentially what they were talking about was apparently there was some sort of restraining band that could be put on giants, because it talks about on the heads of every stature, that there were these bands that, and that calls back to Job. Can you loose the bands of Orion? That there were apparently these magic bands, if you will, that could put Nephilim in stasis. And that's why you always see, like, genie in a bottle, right? The genie always has this band around its arm, like a usually depicted like a gold ring around its bicep. But I've heard tell from different people who claim to have come across giants. Like supposedly there was a whole bunch of Egyptian stuff found in the Grand Canyon, in some caves in the Grand Canyon, and they found, these massive giants that looked like they were in stasis, like they were like suspended animation of some sort. That and Steve Quayle actually wrote about that in his book. I think it's called The Long Walkers or something like that. It was a fiction novel he wrote, talking about these things, having these bands on their head and on their arms, and if you loosed them, i.e., like loosed the bands of Orion, who was also a giant, you awaken these things, and they come to life. I don't know. Have you ever looked into the magic bands of Ezekiel 13?
I have not. I mean, this is the first time that I've heard about it, but it's fascinating. I've heard of like the different bottles, as far as like the genies in the bottle, and how that was all magical incantation spells to trap spirits into bottles, and then we've had recently these boxes, the Digibic boxes or something of that nature, and people have been supposedly buying those and opening them and seeing if they really did contain spirits, and there's been some strange occurrences with all of that in these spirit boxes. And so but I've never heard of the the magical bands as far as the giants. It's fascinating.
Yeah. You've probably seen memes and pictures of various engravings like the Sumerian Anunnaki and stuff like that. They usually show the bird head, human body holding like the pine
feathered serpents.
They usually have like a pine cone type thing, pineal gland thing in one hand, but in the other hand, they're always carrying like this purse.
Right. Yeah.
And I saw a meme somebody had done on Facebook. They were showing most famous ones I've always seen were the Anunnaki doing that, but he was showing that various hieroglyphic imagery and carvings and stuff from people all over the world in vastly different cultures were depicting beings having this little identical looking like little purse thing that they're holding. And it's talking about their souls like birds in verse 20, Ezekiel 13:20. Let me see if I can go back, bring that back on the screen here. On BibleHub.com, I got all the different translations up on the screen. Ezekiel 13:20, New International Version. Therefore, this is what the Sovereign Lord says: I'm against your magic charms with which you ensnare people like birds, and I will tear them from your arms. I will set free the people that you ensnare like birds. And all the other translations pretty much say the same thing what King James is saying here. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I'm against your pillows, wherewith ye there hunt the souls to make them fly, and I will tear them from your arms, and I will let the souls go, even the souls that ye hunt to make them fly. Very cryptic stuff. Look up what they're calling pillows here. Kaseth. Kaseth. I've heard kasetat is another derivative of that. Mespetat and kasetat, I think, were the words if memory serves. Just crazy interesting.
That is fascinating.
But I had some lengthy conversations with Nathan Reynolds about some of the things that he's seen and experienced. I'd written in one of my scripts. In fact, it was the part that Rick Hummer initially auditioned for when we were doing the audio drama, was the part for Kazdaja, who is one of the fallen angels in the Book of Enoch that is said to have taught the art of abortion. First of all, smiting the baby in the womb, but also smiting spirits. And I was always the impression that spirits are eternal. So I'm like, how do you smite a spirit, right? And that's when I started thinking, and as I was writing, that maybe there is a way, thinking about this whole Ezekiel 13 thing, that they can rip the spirits out of people. And so I wrote a scene where this fallen angel, Kazdaja, is literally extracting a soul out of somebody, and it's being put into a container, like a cell of souls. And there are things on the sides of this cell. In Egyptian hieroglyphs, they're called the Jedi. It's spelled with a D before it, D Jedi, the Jedi, and it looks like a mushroom that has like bands on it, and apparently it has something to do with resurrection. It was interesting because they actually depicted that like right in your face in the X-Men movie that dealt with Apocalypse, who was it's basically the Nimrod story. They resurrected, but they had these tubular things that look like mushrooms, where they have bands on them, which are they're somehow linked to resurrection, the Jed poles they call them. And so I'd written this scene, and it was really disturbing the way I envisioned it, the way I wrote it. And after I wrote this whole scene, I took a step back, and I was like, man, I don't know. Like I was wondering if I should take it out of the script, and I felt very strongly that the Holy Spirit was telling me, no, you leave that in there.
Yeah.
And it was like a day or two later that we were watching V when they did the reboot of the TV series V, and there's a scene where Anna is walking through the Vatican with this like cardinal or bishop or somebody, and she's seeing all these paintings of hell and stuff on the walls, and she's like, "What is this stuff?" And the priest or whoever it was saying, "Well, we believe that humans after they die, their spirit goes on to either a place of torment called hell or to a place of joy called heaven." And they're like, "You have an eternal spirit?" And he's like, "Yeah, we believe that, our spirit lives on eternally afterwards." And the next thing you see is Anna has got a victim on a table and she's trying to extract the soul from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, whoa, okay. Cause like I had literally just written it and was freaking out about it. Like, and then I talked to Nathan Reynolds about it and he was saying, yeah, there is some kind of tech out there. They call it blue energy, that some of these underground bases and stuff are operating under. Like they're extracting the soul of people and utilizing it somehow as blue energy to run the place. And I'm going, man, and how all that ties to Ezekiel 13 and stuff like that, and all these giants are held in stasis by these magic bands that are around their arms and around their heads. I don't know. I mean, it makes for great science. It just may actually be true.
Right. It reminds me of I did several interviews with Dan Duvall and Carolyn Hamlet, and they talk about some of that kind of in when they do the DID and they do the torturing of the children and they fracture them, that they are able to lock up parts of their personality, or even to try to remove them and put them into other containment. I forget exactly how he had put it, but I do remember in speaking about that, that it's somehow part of the process of what they do with the dissociative identity disorder and the way that they fragment, and that they are seeking ways to transfer the spirit or the entity or the consciousness of individuals. And it reminds me also of what we were talking about with the 2045 project, and how they want to be able to extract and also upload, no longer even needing flesh bodies, but once you have the consciousness, to just continue creating these cybernetic bodies for continual upload, and just get a new one whenever you need an upgrade.
Yeah. Weird. Interesting times. We're
in. Crazy.
Somebody in the chat room called Realize said a complete abomination would be the Antichrist sitting in a cloned body of Jesus. That would be a complete mockery. And I was responding, yeah, I wrote a script about that back in 1999, as a matter of fact, called The Omega Conspiracy. It was part of a trilogy called the Spear of Destiny trilogy, where I was speculating, because I was doing a lot of research on the Lance of Longinus.
Right.
And the Odessa cloth, and the Shroud of Turin, of course, and all. Right. And actually, come to find out, Ian Wilson is one of the world-renowned scholars who had actually participated in taking samples and testing the Shroud of Turin back in the 70s. He turned out to live not too far from where I lived in Massachusetts, and so I had some lengthy conversations with him.
That's really cool.
And I mean, here's a first-hand scientist guy who actually physically touched the thing and took samples and did tests with it. And he was absolutely convinced that it was the authentic
real deal. Yeah.
And I became quite convinced myself. And then the thought occurred to me, I was like, well, wait a minute. I mean, if they could actually get viable DNA samples off this thing, and it wouldn't surprise me that somebody would say, hey, well, let's try cloning this thing, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, you talk about an antichrist, right? I mean, you'd have the physical body of Christ, whose ID card would be the Shroud of Turin, right? But clearly it wouldn't be filled with the Spirit of Christ. It would be something else.
Yes, absolutely.
And I still very much think that could be a possibility, that somebody would do something like that.
Right. My friend Dr. Joy, actually, her first book is about that. the cloned image of Jesus Christ, the Antichrist cloned image of Jesus Christ. And she writes on that same premise that they are taking the DNA from the Shroud of Turin and that they are trying to create fit extension for the Antichrist to, be exactly that, in the image of Christ, the true body. And
that would not surprise me at all. And I started writing it in '97. This was back in the early days of dial-up internet, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I know. I remember those days.
This thing right for 10 minutes before you finally sign on.
Right.
But just going through the internet and finding as much resources as I could back then. I had 1,000 pages of printed content on all of that, and it was everything I did, every little piece of research I did, every single thing, somehow or another kept leading me back to Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland. Like everything I was doing, I would go down this one rabbit trail and hop down that bunny trail for a while, and it inevitably ended up at Rosslyn Chapel. Craziest thing. And finally, I finalized the script in '99, and I was actually pitching the script to some movie studios out in California back then, and I was staying somewhere near the Hollywood Bowl. There was a hostel there that I was staying, like $15 a night, and one day when I parked my car in a parking garage, and I just come back from pitching to a few studios, pitching my script, and pulled the car out of the parking garage, and I turned to my left, just checking left and right before I pulled out, and there was a dumpster right to the side, and somebody had spray painted on the dumpster in yellow spray paint, "Clone Jesus," and I was flipping out because here I am pitching a script about that very thing.
Right. Oh my gosh, that is.
So, that thought has been out there for many people. It's just confirmation. Your friends also written a book on it. That if we're thinking about it, you got to know there's some Luciferian psychopath out there thinking about it too.
Absolutely.
So who knows?
Yeah, who knows exactly.
Well, let's see. We got time. You can probably read your version of it.
All right. 99.
99.
Woe to you who work godlessness and glory in lying and extol them. Ye shall perish, and no happy life shall be yours. Woe to them who pervert the words of the uprightness and transgress the eternal law and transform themselves into what they were not, into sinners. They shall be trodden under foot upon the earth. In those days make ready, ye righteous, to raise your prayers as a memorial, and place them as a testimony before the angels, that they may place the sin of the sinners for a memorial before the Most High. In those days the nations shall be stirred up, and the families of the nations shall arise on the day of destruction. And in those days the destitute shall go forth and carry off their children, and they shall abandon them, so that their children shall perish through them. Yea, they shall abandon their children that are still sucklings, and not return to them, and shall have no pity on their beloved ones. And again I swear to you, ye sinners, that sin is prepared for a day of unceasing bloodshed. And they who worship stones and grave images of gold and silver and wood and stone and clay, and those who worship impure spirits and demons and all kinds of idols, not according to knowledge, shall get no manner of help from them. And they shall become godless by reason of the folly of their hearts, and their eyes shall be blinded through the fear of their hearts, and through visions in their dreams. Through these they shall become godless and fearful, for they shall have wrought all their work in a lie, and shall have worshipped a stone. Therefore in an instant shall they perish. But in those days blessed are they who accept the words of wisdom and understand them, and observe the paths of the Most High, and walk in the path of his righteousness. and become not godless with the godless, for they shall be saved. Woe to you who spread evil to your neighbors, for you shall be slain in Sheol. Woe to you who make deceitful and false measures, and to them who cause bitterness on the earth, for they shall thereby be utterly consumed. Woe to you who build your houses through the grievous toil of others, and all their building materials are the bricks and stones of sin. I tell you, ye shall have no peace. Woe to them who reject the measure and eternal heritage of their fathers, and whose souls follow after idols, for they shall have no rest. Woe to them who work unrighteousness and help oppression, and slay the neighbors until the day of the great judgment. For he shall cast down your glory and bring affliction on your hearts, and shall arouse his fierce indignation and destroy you all with the sword. And all the holy and righteous shall remember your sins.
There we are with the swords again. It's interesting that angels appear to have swords. That's what they fight with.
Right. And also, when Christ comes again, he fights with the sword of his mouth. Yes. And also with regard to the sword, it is said to represent the authority of a king, and that the sword is that which metes out punishment and justice according to the kingship. And so in this case, it would be Christ, and the sword of his mouth would be, what is brought upon the wicked, and that justice is served in that manner. So,
yeah. The other thing that stood out to me in this chapter was, woe to them who pervert the words of uprightness and transgress the eternal law. That God's law is eternal.
Absolutely.
It didn't just show up on Mount Sinai.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
That's about all. The other thing that this whole thing about worshiping idols that brought to my memory was the story of Abraham and why God called Abraham in the first place.
Right.
I was always wondering, why Abraham? What did he do? Right. Well, Joshua, devotes at least the edition that I have, it's like 200 pages. Is devoted to the life of Abraham, and by contrast Nimrod, because it depicts them as contemporaries. But what a cool story! He spends time with Shem and Noah, and he comes back. His dad's an idol maker, and he's been taught about the one true God, but he's like, what the heck, So he lays food out to see if they got nothing happened. One thing after another. Finally, he gets fed up, and he just smashes them all.
Right.
He takes the hatchet or whatever he was using and he puts it in the hand of the largest
the bigger
item.
one, right?
When his dad comes in, he's like, "What have you done? What did you do?" He's like, "I didn't do nothing. He did."
Yeah.
What are you talking about? He's just made out of stone, and wood or whatever. He did. And he's like, basically like, yeah, hello, McFly.
Exactly.
Oh, well, yeah, you made them. Why are you worshiping them? They're just nothing.
Exactly. And
I love that story, and I think.
Yeah, I do too.
I think Yahuwah's just up there looking like, yeah, I could use this guy. I like this guy.
Right.
He calls him out to be his man, and I just love that story, the way it's depicted there.
Yeah, it is so funny, and then people don't just reading the canon, they're not familiar or aware with the depth of that story, and it is funny when you just visualize all of that taking place, and he uses it to convict him, to convict his father of worshiping false gods. And so, yeah, I think it's an incredible story. And then the whole thing with regard to Abraham is that, according to some of the earlier stories, that when Adam was cast out of paradise, there was seen, when he arrived here upon the earth, a comet in the sky some kind of star.
Right.
And then the same thing that reading the story of Abraham, that the signs, the magicians, and all the soothsayers that are in service to, and even Terah, his father, serving Nimrod, they portend the destruction of his kingdom by a child that is born at that time. And we know that this is Abraham. And so that same sign is seen in the skies. And then we see that in the time of Yeshua as well, that this same star, or if it is the same star. But there are signs in the heavens. Wow, that went quick.
Good show.
Be blessed, brother.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.